You are listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. I've noticed that some of you aren't in our IRC chat room, and that is unforgivable! IRC to MMOIRC.com, hash or pound WoW Radio if you have an IRC client. If you do not, head to WCRadio.com, click the chat button on the top of the screen, and get involved in the discussion. And I must say, I'll give credit to my listeners here. One of the best discussions I've seen in a long time. Very, very intellectual, very respectful for other people. Good, you're not killing each other. That's always a good thing. We'll wait for later for that. That could be the entertainment for the after-show party. It's great. So yeah, get involved in the discussion. It is happening in our IRC channel, and much useful information is posted there, so it is very handy to be in there. That's the chat button on the top of the screen on WCRadio.com or IRC.MMOIRC.com, hash or pound WoW Radio in your IRC channel. I need to get a button that I can just recite that with. It would make it much, much easier. Now, I've got a couple of replies in. I say a couple, that's a blatant lie. I've got tons. For the is your guild burning out on content debate that happened in the previous segment. And after that, we're going to be talking a little bit about the last boss of Ulduar and his last boss of Ulduar. So, this one's from Tom Moulton, and he says this. Our guild has recently lost 3 players because they were upset that the rest of the guild weren't as driven to get achievements as they were. Raiders have stopped showing up because they are tired of the current content, so we've had to run 20-mans for most nights. That doesn't make it more fun, obviously. We've had a solid progression guild all the way through Sunwell, but ever since Wrath, we've been slowing down because our guild isn't motivated. We're all getting burnt out, and I'm worried that by the time Ulduar hits, we're not going to have enough interested raiders to clear the content. Now again, this is what I'll say to anyone like this. Don't worry, I've been there. I understand. Our guild is having similar issues. Take a break. Suggest it to the guild management. It's like, right, understand this. You do not need best in slot to do Ulduar 25. Yeah? You don't. At all. Blizzard has already said that. Reasonable gear is fine. And if you are skilled, even better. You're going to need even less gear. So you're going to get brand new gear, and you're going to be doing brand new encounters in an instance that looks like to be one of the best designed raid instances Blizzard has ever put out. You're going to have the opportunity to play that. Until that time, take a break. Maybe do Sarth and Malagus and VOA, assuming people are missing pieces of 7.5 for some reason every week. You can clear all that in 30 minutes. Just do that, and then don't do anything else. Don't run Nax. Don't do anything else. Don't go for achievements. Just take a break. Go play something else, or go play an alt, or whatever. Go do some PvP. Something that you like doing. Something that you're having fun, or maybe you haven't tried before. Maybe go try another game for a while. There's nothing wrong with trying out the competition. Blizzard should not be afraid of the competition. Blizzard are on top. The competition, indeed, can often help alleviate some of the issues that you're having with WoW. Were it not for Eve, I'd have quit WoW by now, because I'd have burned out on it completely. As it stands, my sub is active, and I log on infrequently. I wouldn't have done that, thanks to, if I didn't have Eve Online to kind of play as my other alternative game in between big raids. So just bear that in mind. Now, competition is not necessarily a bad thing. Go try something else, go have a little bit of fun, and you can come back refreshed and ready to raid. I've got another one here from Risiki, level 80 Blood Elf Paladin. He says this. Hey TB, I have lived out this problem when my guild got killed because of the lack of content, and I really felt that Blizzard should hurry up and get that patch out here. But on the other side, I don't want Ulduar to suck Kodo ass. As a raider, I really hope that Ulduar, when it comes out, will prove to be a more challenging raid than Nax has proven to be, seeing as you can pretty much do all the raid content in Wrath in one day. Could I get a shout out to my new guild, Hand of Hades, on Frost Whisper EU? Yes, you can. Now, yes, I would agree with that. They're not rushing Ulduar, and I'm fine with that, yeah? I've said in previous shows that I would have preferred there to be content faster. However, this is where we are right now, and there's no point reminiscing when you have to be looking to the future. Ulduar is going to come out in this time frame. We have to accept that. What we don't want is to pressure Blizzard into releasing it early and it being buggy and incomplete and not as good as it should be. It's like you don't rush a masterpiece. Yes, I think that it should have been out on release, or at least, 2 months after release. Yes, I think the pacing of their content was wrong, but this is where we are now. So let's just concentrate on the future, because otherwise it's just entirely depressing. Now, Nax is not as challenging as Ulduar, we know this. Ulduar is going to be more challenging. They've got all of these hard modes in, because this is what they think people now want. Whether or not that's right, well, we're gonna find out. It might end up being great, it might not. This is uncharted waters here. I don't know whether or not I am going to enjoy Ulduar with the hard modes. I don't know whether or not my guild is going to care enough to do the hard modes. I imagine that it will. I don't know whether or not it'll do it on a weekly basis. I suppose that probably depends on how fun they are in hard mode. Because if they're not fun, then we won't. Yeah? It's simple as that. It's like saying, oh, well, you know, maybe the hard mode of Loatheb was Spore Loser. Where you don't kill any of the spores. Admittedly, that's not a hard mode, it's an achievement, but the lines blur between the two. One gives a reward, one doesn't. They're all pretty much the same thing. It makes Loatheb harder, but it also makes Loatheb more boring. So it depends on how good those hard modes are as to whether or not it's going to succeed, and it's going to convince players that, yes, they should be doing hard modes on a weekly basis because they are enjoyable, they are fun, they are challenging, they are rewarding. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, you can continue to email throughout the show, themorlock@gmail.com, or tweet me, and Total Biscuit. Actually, I did get a tweet here from The Needy, who says, I'm bored of pulling people through raids just to gear them up, since they can't be bothered to do it themselves. Well, if you're in a guild like that, I would suggest you go find a better guild, because no guild should ever be doing that. Now, the good news from the PTR, and indeed this one came directly from a certain dev whose name I forget, it might actually have been a Ghost Crawler quote. I will check that. I will find that out for you. Here's the source. Now, the person who said this was Bornak, specifically, who said, I would not expect Algernon or Yogg-Saron to appear on the PTR. And he also says, surprises are fun. Yes, indeed they are. Now, it's interesting because while a lot of you might say, that's great, that's fantastic, funnily enough, most of you aren't actually going to be affected by that. I'm not either. My guild's pretty good, but we're not going to be getting any world firsts. Let's face it. And we're not, maybe not even realm firsts. We are competing with the Legacy, who's like a top 20 guild in the world. Not a chance. Oh, we'll fight him, but we've also got Loke's List on the server, and, you know, good guilds like that. We've got Security on the Alliance side, you know, who's also at least a top 50 guild. So we got good guilds in our server, and while we are good, we're not that good. So we'll be competitive, but we're not going to be getting the firsts. So does it matter to us? Because by the time we get to those bosses, surely the strategies are going to be available. Well, the answer, I suppose, can come in two different ways. One depends on how much self-control, how much restraint your guild has. And you can argue that it's a good thing that the bosses aren't going to be put on the PTR because it's going to take longer for strategies to appear. Therefore, there will be less time in which to read them, and less temptation to do so. However, that is something of a tenuous argument, because some guild leaders, and this is not wrong, you've got to accept this, this is not a wrong way of playing, there is no right or wrong way to raid in this respect. Some raid leaders say, we're reading the strategy, they explain the strategy in a detailed manner, and they don't go in blind, and they don't just learn as they go. They know because they've seen the videos and they've watched the fight, and they have read the strategies inside out. They know them from the top of their head. They have memorized them. Is that a wrong way of playing? No. Is going in blind and learning yourself a wrong way of playing? No, it's not. Neither of those are a wrong way of raiding, and it just depends on your guild. Now, the opposing argument is, of course, that, no, it doesn't affect you because you're going to read the strategies, and whether or not this content has been available from the start in the PTR, or whether or not it's only been killed a couple of days ago, doesn't affect you because you weren't the ones who killed it first. I think there's a lot of merit to both. What I do think it does, though, is give a particular boost in morale and interest to the raiding community. Now, the raiding community is a very tenuous thing. I would say that the raiding community is a very fragmented community. A lot of it exists on, say, sites like Elitist Jerks. A lot of it exists on the Arenas and Raids and Dungeons subforum, on the forums on WorldofWarcraft.com and WildishEurope.com. And, of course, they exist on individual realms and battle groups and all stuff like that. It gives encouragement, and it gives something to shoot for those guys, because it gives and returns the sense of wonder, in a very small amount, to WoW. And that is something that raiders have lost a long time ago. Most of us have been playing since launch. I don't get a sense of wonder from things anymore. But what I do is if I see a new encounter that I am not familiar with, and it's a suitably epic encounter, then I can recapture some, not all, but some, of that feeling. That sense of mystery, the sense of wonderment. Because it feels new again. And that, I think, is so vitally important. I don't think it's something that is given enough credence and importance. But I just think it's vital. Now, ensuring that the element of competition is in there is also important. Now, the element of competition exists whether or not they have done things on the PTR or not, but I would say the competition is significantly more legitimate if bosses have not been killed on the PTR, because that means that everyone is basically starting from an even keel on a level playing field, and it comes entirely down to how much time you can spend raiding and how much skill you have in doing so. Watching the World First competitions is something that people get excited about. And it's not just about fanboyism either. Yes, there is an element of that with some people, but I like watching the competition. Why wouldn't I? I'm interested in that kind of thing. As a raider, I am interested in seeing what the top tier guilds can do. And I'm interested in seeing, will this guild manage it this week? What happened that stopped them? What can we learn from that? That's intriguing to me. I've been following that very closely throughout. Blue Police has been running, for those who don't know, since 2005. It's possibly the longest running WoW podcast on the net. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but I'm pretty sure it's close. I don't know of any WoW podcasts that have been running longer than that, but by all means, if you do know, then email themurloc@gmail.com and tell me, and I shall, of course, put my foot squarely in my mouth. That'll be something to see. Now, over that time, I have covered raiding extensively, and I've interviewed various guilds: Nihilum, Curse, Method, Forte, Death and Taxes. And we followed the World First, I wouldn't say drama, but certainly the competition and the excitement, and I do get psyched up about this kind of things. It is exciting to watch that, because it's masters of their art competing. It's the same reason that you, as, say, a soccer/football player, a casual fan, watch top teams play. Why? I mean, you could just go play it yourself, right? So why are you excited about the Champions League? Well, the reason you're excited about the Champions League is you're watching people who are just masters of their art compete. And that is a pugilistic gladiatorial contest, which is entertaining and heart-pumping and adrenaline-rousing. It's wonderful. And I think that raiding does capture that. Sadly, more so than arenas at the moment. I think it always has, actually. While arenas were touted as the great esport, the real competition and the real sport was actually happening with competing for world first kills. That's always been the way. And hopefully it will continue to be that way in the future. Now, what I see from Blizzard here is a very important message. This is, well, it's actually twofold. The first thing is them saying, we have confidence in our testing abilities now that indicates we can properly test content. Yeah? We can properly test content, and it will be good enough for the player base to consume, and it will be working. Yeah? It will work. It will provide a challenge not based on a cock block, or rooster block, as we say, kind of politically correct term. Yes. Will not provide a cock block based on having bugs and an encounter that doesn't work. We'll provide one on the basis that it's hard, genuinely challenging. That's what we're looking for. And the other part of this is a nod towards the cutting-edge raiders that says, we know what you want. We know that if this is on the test realm, you will test it because you, of course, are competitive and will take every advantage you can get. But you prefer that it's not there. We recognize that. We recognize that there is more work on our part by not having you guys test the content. And we've got to make sure that it works ourselves. We don't get you to do the heavy lifting. We recognize that, but we think it is important that you guys get the opportunity to have a genuine World First contest again, and to see some new content that you haven't seen before, and to compete to kill it first. We recognize that, and this is what we're giving you. We're giving you these two bosses, both with hard modes. I believe one, in fact, is exclusively hard mode, Algernon. We're going to give these to you, and we're going to see how you do. Put your money where your mouth is. Can you do anything other than praise Blizzard for that? No, you can't. I think that is genius. It is Blizzard waking up to the fact that, yes, the hardcore raiding player base, and indeed just the casual raiding player base, does find value in this kind of thing and should be supported. Especially after what's been happening over the last 5 months. We've stuck it out, and we're hopefully going to get rewarded, and I can only give praise to Blizzard for that. I think they are really now seeing the writing on the wall, and they are acting on it. Vitally important. My name is Total Biscuit, you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. We'll be back with the Illusion of Choice right after this. Enjoy.